Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Neville and welcome to Selective Imagery. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Nothing Like Birds. The video clips and still images you're going to see were taken on Saturday morning, December 9th. We start off with the guy who's in charge pretty much everywhere, the bald eagle. So we'll show you some stills and then we'll move on to a short video clip. And I took one of these images and I converted it to black and white. You know, not too horrible, not bad. Too much sky though for the black and white. So in a second or two here we'll be coming on to the video portion. Here we go. And this was very early in the morning. I had to bring up the shadows a little bit, whatnot, because it was a little bit dark out when I took these videos. But like I've said a million times before, and I'll say it a million times again, is I like doing my videos before it gets too bright, especially when you have birds that have white in them. Like if this was taken at even maybe 9 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't be able to recover the white on the eagle's head. It would be too blown out. So I prefer to take my videos very early in the morning, and then I switch over to stills as I deem appropriate. But eagles, I never get tired of looking at an eagle. And this one is relatively close in a dead tree. Now this is on the marsh side of the causeway. For those of you that hear me talk about the causeway, basically a road that cuts through where they built a road in between, through the marsh. So on the left is the marsh and on the right is a brackish water pond. And that's how things are. So the eagle's kind of just paying attention to everything that's going on in the general area. And believe you me, he or she knows exactly what's going on in this general area. I mean, it would have been nice if it decided to dive and get something to eat, but of course, when you're filming is when they're not going to do that. You turn your back for a second and somebody will tell you, "Oh, did you see that? The eagle got a fish." And you're like, "Okay, thanks for telling me." It didn't happen on this day, thankfully, but it's something that's not uncommon, as you always hear about what happened after the fact. A fun fact that you might not know, where there are 46 species of eagles. You have golden eagles, harpy eagles, stellar sea eagles, crowned eagles, Philippine eagles. The list goes on and on. Little eagles, Papan eagle, Pallas fish eagle. So there's, they rule the roost, as they say, everywhere in the world pretty much. We now come across a few still images of a wood stork trying to find food, a female merganser, and then we roll right into a video clip. And this video clip is quite long, but it's going to show you really how surprisingly good it was this particular morning. There was a lot of birds there. I do not normally do photography on the weekends. That's my time since my wife is still working actively, that's the time I like to spend with her. We usually go to the movies on Saturday mornings, and but her friends were not available, so we kind of moved things around, and I had Saturday morning available. So myself and my friend Bob from Bob Art Photos, please check out his channel, went down there at about 7 o'clock in the morning at the state park, and we both shot quite a bit of video. And here I'm just panning and moving across, you know, a good cross section of the pond to get some video of the different birds that are in the area that day. And it was a fun day. So we pan over, and we're basically here panning in between wood storks. This one's talking to me, telling me to go away. He doesn't want to be caught on film. Bad hair day, I guess. So wants me to get lost. So I pan over to the next subject matter, which happens to be a pair of wood storks. They're just hanging out, not doing anything overly exciting. There was not a lot of feeding going on with the storks anyway. They were kind of just standing around in different pockets and different locations within the pond, and here you have one moving in on their area. He's gonna like walk on by, and but it was, like I said, it was an interesting day, and it was actually a pretty warm day for the morning. It was probably at least, I think, 50 degrees at 7 o'clock, which was very nice. I'll take 50 degrees Fahrenheit any day of the week. Very, very comfortable. Here we got one that has an itch. Must be nice to have really long legs and long toenails so that you can scratch yourself. I mean, us humans can't do that. If we didn't have hands, we'd be in trouble if we had an itch, you know what I'm saying? And of course, all the birds at this hour of the morning, if they're not eating, they're going to do one or two things. If they're not eating, then they're preening. So, and you know, I mean, storks just have to make themselves look good, and believe me, no matter how hard they try, they still don't usually look good. So we pan a little more, we find another one. Yeah, pretty meticulous for a bird that loses its hair on its head at a very young age. And moving along, you're probably saying, are we going to find something else? So there's that little blue heron in the background that probably the same one I misidentified in my last video and said it was a snowy egret. And you have a couple of Ibis in the foreground, which eventually I will focus on one of them, one in the middle, and then I'll switch focus to the one in the foreground. But, you know, they're just doing, like I said, just what the storks are doing. They're preening, they're not really eating, they're not looking for food. They're just making themselves look good. This one's going to take a little walk. Come on, keep going. Thinking about eating, I guess. Of course, what they have for a food source changes during the seasons, because earlier in the year they'd be plucking out fiddler crabs like crazy and eating fiddler crabs, or in some cases even full-size blue crabs. But this time of year, There's not a lot of fiddler crabs around. I mean, I haven't seen any anyway. So you're being forced to eat different things, maybe water beetles or snails. And one decides, I've had enough, I'm getting out of here. Yeah, I like it when they have, you know, the darker colored feathers, at least for a while. I got a few, I have a few photos that were sent to me since the live stream on Saturday for the photos of the week for next month. And all I can say is, wow. One of the images is of an ibis, of which I've never seen before. Totally different coloration, and really wowed me. So I look forward to being able to share that with all of you come the next photo review, which, if my memory serves me correctly, I believe it's on January 6th, is the first Saturday in January. I'll have to sneak here and look at my calendar while I'm recording. Yes, January 6th is the date. So send pictures in early so I don't have to deal with them all in the last 48 hours, or even the same day of the show, or sometimes during the night of the show when I'm broadcasting. So let's try to get everything in early, guys, so that I could space out my effort here and not get crunched all at the end. Would be appreciated. So now we have a great egret hanging around with the ibis, and we're panning across to see what else we can find. Okay, so out in the far distance, now this is all being filmed. I was using my monopod. Monopod is still, you know, I mean, my best option for videography obviously is if I got out my fluid head with my big heavy Manfrotto tripod, but I'm not, you know, it's not something I'm going to use a lot. I'll use it occasionally. I'm not working for National Geographic, and it's nice not to lug all that stuff around if I don't have to. But you know, the monopod helps. Those were greater yellow legs that you just saw, and panning across the pond a little more. Let's see what we find. You can see there's gaps here where you don't see much of anything, although there's probably some birds in the foreground that you're going to eventually see. Lock focus on one. It's a great egret. We keep moving around. We got another ibis. And some other videos, I mean, there was really only one species of bird that was really actively feeding. I mean, not that these guys wouldn't occasionally dip their heads in the water or their bills in the water to try to get something, but for the most part, they were not actively feeding and focusing on that. Just a little prodding here every now and then. But there was one species of bird that was actively feeding quite a bit, and that'll be in another video clip that we'll see in a little while. I'm not going to give away what bird that was at this time. Let's just say it was not shown in this particular clip. Now we're going to move on to a couple still images. I really like this pose of this gull. There's a couple images of this ring-billed gull that I really liked, with a nice soft background, probably shooting wide open. And then eventually a gray egret decided to hop on the post in the foreground, and once again scratch itself and preen itself. And very short video clip here of a wood stork, and we're just panning around finding another subject. Well, when you have a group of different species of birds, I mean, that's a good way to start the day, and then you hope it's a sign of things to come. Tricolored heron, there was just this one in this particular spot. You know, this time of year, there's certain birds, you'll still see them, but you know, instead of seeing, let's say, maybe 6 of them or a dozen of them or whatnot, maybe you only see 1 or 2. Okay, so the quantity of certain birds that you would see a lot in the summer, or you know, through the spring and the summer into the fall, dissipates. Now here's a merganser, doesn't know what to eat. Started with a feather, tried a fish, never did eat that one, it was too big, and here it just has a little blade of some kind of grass or plant life in its mouth, which is finally the appropriate food for it. But the fish had struggled with it for a while and then dropped it and was not able to get it back. Here you go, buddy, you got the right food in your mouth now. And the reason I take a lot of pictures of the same bird is because different reflections of the sky, different coloration in the water, different ripple effects, depending on what direction the merganser is swimming in, and it all makes each photo a little bit different than the other one. Even though if you're not paying attention, you may say, oh, they're all the same. Why did you take so many that are basically the same? But when you really look closely, they're not the same. Every single one of them is typically different. And we got another clip here, and capture a great blue heron. In the background here with the spoonbills out of, I mean, not the spoonbills, the wood storks out of focus. There we go. A couple more ibis. Now these guys are actively feeding. A preen here and there, right? Make a liar out of me, guys. I just said you were feeding. Then all of a sudden you start cleaning yourself. A mixed bag, a little bit of feeding, a little bit of preening. Here's a still of the great blue. I like shots like this. I like it when they're backlit. I call it rim lighting, when the body is illuminated along the edges. I like this shot as well, of the snowy egret. This one I changed the white balance a little bit to make it a little bit warmer for that particular merganser shot. And now we're going to see, this is the bird. These are the birds that were feeding a good percentage of the time, the whole time they were there, and that is the white pelicans. So we finally got a substantial grouping of white pelicans. Now, as you can see, they, you know, the park, obviously, my favorite complaint, you know, they lower the water too low, and they do it. They're doing it to expose the grasses here to try to attract ducks. And in the background, you can see some mergansers. You can see some teals. I'm not sure if they're blue-winged teals or green-winged teals. I can't tell which one they are unless they're in flight and I actually see that coloration in the wings when they're flying. But move over to another group of white pelicans, a larger grouping of white pelicans. And the problem is with the water this low, okay, first off, you know, we had fish kills that wiped out the majority of the very large flounder, and that's what these white pelicans used to love to eat, were really, really large flounder. Now they're not here anymore, so now they have to try to pick out the smaller fish that are hiding in these grasses, so they get a mouthful of, I mean, maybe they have a better balanced diet because they're having a little salad with their fish, but you know, they're going down, they end up with a mouthful of grass and maybe a couple small fish, and you know, that's what they're forced to do right now. You know, they do what they got to do. I mean, they're used to coming here. I mean, they don't get an SOS or an alert that, hey, you know, your favorite food source isn't around anymore. So they have to make do with what's here. So unfortunately, it forces them to feed. I mean, this is, like I said, with the 800, probably in the 2.3 crop mode. So this is shooting at almost the opposite, total opposite end of the pond to get those images. Now here is a snowy poking its head in the rocks, you know, away from the water, and I couldn't figure out what it was trying to get. And here an Ibis is flying at me like it's going to give me a big hug. That was a little bit unnerving. I wasn't expecting that. And we did have cormorants, and cormorants can wipe out a pond with fish really, really quick. As we jump back to the pelicans, and you can see the teals in the foreground. And you can see some swans in here too. Okay, behind these pelicans, there you got the great blue in the background, and to the right you got a bunch of swans, or a handful of swans, and here that great blue had to move out of the way of the pelicans. Pelicans are much heavier than a great blue is. They may not be as tall, but their wingspan is a lot bigger, and they're a lot stronger. So if they're in the water, pretty much they're not as much with the white pelicans, but when you have the brown pelicans, they're very aggressive. If you have white pelicans in the water with the brown, the brown pelicans are in the water with the cormorants. The cormorants, they'll wait for them to get a fish, and then they'll aggressively pursue the cormorant and try to steal the fish from it. I mean, so many of these birds, to me, sometimes they expend a lot of energy trying to steal a meal. Eagles are really known for that, trying to steal a meal rather than catch their own. Here's a cormorant, speak of the devil. Yeah, if they're surrounded by brown pelicans, they catch a fish. You never saw a bird try to swallow a fish so fast, because they know if they don't get it down in a matter of seconds that pelican's going to steal it. And then here's another video showing several cormorants. And there's been some days here where, you know, you had dozens and dozens of these birds, and if they're on a feeding frenzy, watch out, because my friend Bob and I watched one eat definitely a minimum of 12 fish, one right after another, that were in that 8 to 12 inches long category. And you look at the size of this bird in the video, and you can say to yourself, unless the bird's gizzard can grind up a fish like you're putting it through a wood chipper, I have no clue how a bird that size could consume 12 or more fish in one outing. And here is a shot of an osprey, a series of shots of this osprey that got a halfway decent sized fish. And no, it's not Flying Air Canada. The fish is Flying Air Osprey, and unfortunately for the fish, it's a one-way ticket, and you don't make it back. Here's a still image of the swans, and we follow up with the still with a very short video. And this was a pleasant surprise to see a grouping of swans, because for when I first moved down here, there was only one pair of swans that typically showed up, and then obviously the mate had passed away. They will eventually, sometimes they'll never get another mate. Other times they will, over time, find another mate. But for years we only had one. So this was the first time since I've been down here where I saw, 5 or more swans together, which was really nice. Now something spooked the birds, and we were looking for it to see if it was an eagle, because all of a sudden, and this is in slow motion because these geese, and there's a few pelicans I think in here too, took off like somebody threw a firecracker in the water, and we could not see a bird of prey when we were looking around. But when an eagle shows up, let me tell you, everything disperses. Another shot of the pelicans. That's an overlook area at the other end of the pond. You have to walk through the woods to be able to get to it. And here the pelicans are hanging out with some wood storks. And now we have a merganser shot that's going to lead right into a video clip of a merganser, a single male merganser, and a couple females that'll keep popping up and down out of the water. The male is more content to just get a drink and take a little quick bath, and the females are probably looking for food. Yeah, I like watching them when they're in larger groups, because I just think of that game when we were kids, whack-a-mole. It's like all of a sudden all the heads go down and disappear, and then they pop up one at a time. It's really funny. We got a great blue on the left, and then we got a grouping of white pelicans. And this is the last video clip. We'll end it with the king or queen of this area, being the bald eagle. And once again, amazing when you get the opportunity to see one up close, and it would have been even more amazing to see one try to get a fish or what have you. Now, I've seen them steal a fish. Like I said, talk about a bird that likes to steal. Osprey will get a fish, the eagle will go right after it, chase it down, make it drop it, try to catch the fish before it hits the water. But when they get a fish on their own, it's so effortless. I just don't know why they even bother with the osprey, unless it's just to kind of say, this is our turf and we're letting you know we're in charge, and that's our food and we want it back, and they go and they try to steal it. Thank you for watching my channel. I really appreciate it. Please give me a like and leave a comment, pro or con. Just please be respectful. And if you really enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. And remember my motto: enjoy life, capture some of it, get out there and get some of your best images, irregardless of the genre that you choose to shoot. Take care and God bless.